Hey guys, so right now I'm going to react to two videos, and all related to one thing. How strong is Shoto Todoroki? And also, guys like my new shirt? The reason why I'm doing two videos, because I can't find like a good one. So I try to like spice it up, and if you guys haven't watched my channel, I usually do one or two videos or more. Well, depending on how long it is. If y'all already know, I already did how strong is Deku Bakugo. Next up is Shoto Todoroki. Okay, one of the videos is from Mystic Sage. And that's pretty much it. Anyway, let's get this going in 3, 2, 1.
Be sure to follow us on TikTok at MysticSage1 for daily anime content. Shoto Todoroki, one of the most promising students at UA High. Todoroki is the son of Endeavor, the new current #1 hero. Obviously, being in this position, he has a lot of pressure to live up to. With that said, he also has an amazing quirk, being half cold and half hot. That creates the question though, how strong is Shoto Todoroki? Today, we will be figuring out just that. I will be covering his accomplishments, his quirk, and his potential. Also, there will be manga spoilers in this video, so you've been warned. So that said, let's hop into it. As I mentioned in the intro, Todoroki is the son of Endeavor, the #1 hero, and as a child, he received special training. Endeavor had the goal of producing the ultimate offspring, of having a half ice and half fire quirk. In doing so, Endeavor had 4 children: Toya, Fuyumi, Natsuo, and Shoto. Shoto was obviously the one to get the power of half cold and half hot. With this quirk in mind, and the training he had received, Shoto was able to get into UA High, the most prestigious academy for heroes in training. Shoto got in because of special recommendations, and to be able to get in through that method screams potential. He totally aced the entrance exam and scored #2 in the academy apprehension test right behind Momo. Another situation is when he is able to absolutely decimate the League of Grunts at the USJ. I feel some fans forgot about this actually. Obviously, we know what happens at USJ. The League of Villains attack, and Class 1A has to fend for themselves. Shoto on his own is able to clobber a crap ton of adult villains using only his ice side. He was able to keep calm during this situation and adapted very quickly to what was going on. He even makes the comments to the villains, "You're losing to a child, and you're an adult. How do you feel?" Shoto just completely roasted these guys, and it shows that he is easily one of the top 3 in Class A at this point. What's crazy is that he's still only using his ice side. In the beginning, Todoroki really didn't interact with his classmates, as all he wanted to do was get stronger. Well, he certainly was very strong for that point, using only his ice side of his quirk. Using his ice side, he still scored 2nd place in the apprehension test, and passed the entrance exam. He was even able to get 2nd place during the sports festival using only his ice side for the majority of the time. Using only the ice side, Shoto was able to accomplish all of that. That's mind-boggling to say the least. However, once he and Deku fought each other, Shoto finally used his fire side after Deku telling him it's your power, not Endeavor's. After that moment is when Todoroki really starts to realize his potential in my opinion. Having the genetics of Endeavor and that fire quirk makes Todoroki a threat even with that side. Despite having Endeavor's genetics though, this is where Todoroki starts to get the ultimate character development, especially being able to push past what happened to him. He even starts to visit his mother more often. At the sports festival, Todoroki starts to demonstrate his battle prowess, using his keen instincts, movements, and technique. Right around the time, Deku and Class 1A are doing their class internships. Shoto was working under his father during the time, and Deku was working with Gran Torino. Tenya Ida was also working under Manuel in Hosu City to find the culprit of his brother Ingenium's demise. We found out that it's the hero killer Stain, a vigilante who wants to clean the world up of false heroes. Ida goes off on his own to stop Stain and to avenge his brother, but is unfortunately crippled. Deku and Todoroki both show up to his rescue. Todoroki actually holds the hero killer off for a good while, and the hero killer is very experienced in combat. Shoto was able to ascertain the situation pretty well while working together with Deku. Plus at this point, he is using both of his sides. Going into Todoroki's techniques, here are the main ones that come to mind. Heaven Piercing Ice Wall, Flash Freeze Heat Wave, Flash Fire Fist, and Flash Fire Fist Jet Kindling. Heaven Piercing Ice Wall is first used against Sero in the sports festival, where he utterly just freezes Sero and the match ends. Against Mr. Compress, he used this attack multiple times. The fire side of the quirk is really starting to come together, especially since Shoto is starting to respect his father more now. He is trying to master his fire side and has even begun training to master Endeavor's Flash Fire Fist. We can definitely see a strong instance with this when he practically melts Tetsu during the matches against Class B. Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto all go off with Endeavor for practical hero experience. And during that time, Shoto really starts to train. With that said, after that, Shigi goes absolutely nuts and wants to clear the heroes off the face of the planet. After loads of fighting during the Paranormal Liberation arc, Shoto uses Flash Fire Jet Kindling on a new and improved Shigaraki. It doesn't bring him down, but it just goes to show how much of a grip he is starting to get with this quirk. His potential is off the charts. Combining both his ice and fire, he is able to use Flash Freeze Heat Wave. We see this at the end of his fight against Midoriya at the sports festival. Beyond this, he uses it a few more times, and we see that he gets better at switching between cold and hot pretty frequently. The fact he can switch much faster now also shows he's getting stronger at a very rapid rate. Another aspect that I want to touch on is Todoroki's intelligence, and the fact he notices a lot of things others don't. And sometimes he pieces stuff together a bit wrong. That is played for comedy sometimes, but when it counts, he's pretty damn bright. Earlier I also mentioned being trained extensively by Endeavor, but I don't think I touched on that much. Think about it like this. He has probably been drilled and trained in so many different scenarios. Rescues and hero work come naturally to him, and I would say he may even be able to do rescues blindfolded. Okay, that part may be a bit over-exaggerated, but the training is definitely not. The mental fortitude he had to go through to get to that point blows my mind. There is one more part of Todoroki that I want to cover before we end this video, and I think you manga readers know exactly what I'm going to say. A few months back, we got literally one of the biggest reveals that My Hero has given us so far. We find out that the fan theory of Dabi being Toya Todoroki is true. Toya absolutely makes Endeavor feel guilty for his past mistakes, and how he treated him and his children. Toya was majorly neglected, and all he ever wanted was for Endeavor to acknowledge what he could do. Endeavor was just a worried parent though, and didn't want Toya to hurt himself. This affects Shoto in a few different ways. For one, he feels some sort of guilt, but mostly due to how Endeavor treated him. He, in this aspect, got the opposite treatment to what Toya got. Toya refers to Shoto as the perfect one, and Shoto, I think, feels at fault because he's the reason Toya got ignored. Shoto, though, couldn't control this, but he definitely always wanted to bond with his siblings. Endeavor always referred to them as failures, though, and in doing so, this made everyone in the family hold a major grudge against him. After the events transpire with the Dabi reveal, and the aftermath of Shigaraki is finished, Shoto gets a newfound goal of stopping Dabi's murderous spree. On this notion, Shoto feels he's the only one who can stop Dabi. However, after a discussion with his family, they all come to the conclusion that they all have their own role to play in this. Even though he agrees to this, I can see Shoto getting some newfound motivation on wanting to become stronger. As the My Hero manga progresses, I feel with Shoto, we're going to get some major training with him. Him and Endeavor have also grown closer recently, so I feel he is also going to play a very strong role in that. Think about this for a second. Despite the abuse Shoto received from his father, he's still striving to follow in his father's footsteps. He swallows his pride to get Endeavor to take Deku and Bakugo under his wing for them to get strong as well. Plus his family is closer than they were before. I can definitely see a stronger connection after the Dabi reveal. They're all going to push each other. Shoto has gotten to a point where he's mentally strong, going through traumatic abuse as a child, and now finding out his brother is a true killer. I mentioned mental fortitude before, but just think about everything he has gone through. Mental strength builds toughness, thus building physical toughness as well. The only small thing Todoroki really has to work on, while he does have a cool side to him, he doesn't calm himself when he starts to lose. After a while though, I think he can get this under control. That goes into my last and final comparison. Let's talk about quirk comparison. In a sense, I feel Shoto, Endeavor, and Dabi act like a triangle semi. Dabi has a very strong fire quirk, but it acts like a double-edged sword because of him always getting burned. He doesn't have very strong fire resistance. This is a weakness Shoto covers though, due to him being in control of his ice side, giving him a balance of the two. Endeavor does have more experience, but Shoto also has a wide array of techniques he can use. Due to sheer strength and power, I think Dabi wins for now. Not to mention his flame is blue. Blue flames are usually hotter than regular flames. However, like I mentioned before, Shoto's potential is off the charts. He can learn to have more control, patience, and experience as he goes through his training. The fact he's only a teenager and has this kind of power is pretty nuts.
Anyway, let's go on to the next one. This one's from Ivan the Unstoppable.
Imagine being the fortunate kid to have both ice and fire power at the same time. One half being fire, one half being ice. It's a supernatural anime world where characters are born with different superpowers that makes each character unique. To not have superpowers in this universe, it's rare. I mean, his mom is an ice manipulator that can shoot out ice, and his dad is debatably the best fire user in this universe. It makes a lot of sense on why he's a powerful character. Due to winning the genetic jackpot, he has high potential for ridiculous blast power. Like, there's plenty of occasions of him generating a lot of ice, which I'm gonna get back to in the same video. Same with fire. But the thing that makes him unique is that his elemental abilities make it to where he doesn't really need a lot of blunt concussive power. What do I mean by this? I'm saying when you're an elemental type character, you have attacks that kind of ignore durability, because if you get burnt or if you get frostbite, what does that have to do with you being able to take a certain amount of concussive power? It doesn't. A lot of characters are ridiculously durable, but they can still be burnt by fire. They can still get frostbite. You know, they're not really related. So he can kind of hurt beings that are physically more durable than him technically, just because his elemental type of attacks. This is different if a character has like elemental resistances and stuff though, but like just because a character has superhuman durability doesn't guarantee they're just immune to every element. You know, that's what makes him dangerous, even against top tiers, or even against higher up or characters that are stronger than him overall. I mean, it's literally said he can make characters skin rot or get frostbite. This is a good example of what I'm talking about when I say ignoring durability. Like, this is clearly a character that's way more durable, and it's way too durable for Todoroki to be able to technically destroy or hurt with blunt concussive power. But his quirk, his icy quirk, allows him to kind of change tiers in that regard to where he can damage beings he technically shouldn't be able to damage at the moment in time because of how ice works. Like, this being was All Might level and he was still able to kind of damage him, which is kind of crazy considering the time period this was in. This Nomu. You can say with his fire, he can make his own lightsabers by like using this technique.
The Hellspider.
He can be a bit artistic with his ice, making ice slides, ice ramps, can make ice to change his own trajectory so he doesn't get a ring out, or even somehow merging both of his elements together. He was able to learn this because he's one of those characters that does improve it as time goes by. On the subject of raw muscle, you can say that's not necessarily a strong suit because it's not like his quirk literally gives him super strength or anything. Strength is not his strong suit when it comes to muscle. In the physical exam, he did do pretty good, even though that's not his strong suit still. So characters can really train their way physically in this universe without relying on their power all the way. Essentially, his muscle doesn't matter because he can basically amplify his fist with either his ice or fire regardless of it. With punches or straight up blast, it don't really matter either or. You can also look at the size of the constructs he can make too to understand his power, of the size of the things he can make in an instant. For example, here, there's heavy implications. Even though he got binded, he could have busted out either of his blasts. Occasions like this prove that he doesn't need muscles when he can make huge ramps. This lets you know how much blast power he got when he can make ice danger the size of small buildings, like covering up the street here. I mean, at the very least, he should be able to make a big ice ball big enough to crush a house. You can tell his raw power when you can see all the ice he can generate pretty much in the blink of an eye. So he can casually generate this much ice. That's pretty solid. No wonder he's constantly able to freeze other students, just with a little bit of ice like this. I mean, look how big these ice structures are compared to buildings, like the heaven piercing ice wall. You're probably wondering, why does freezing an entire building prove he has the destructive power to probably destroy a building? Well, it's simple. He can generate this much ice pretty fast. That's the size of building. Like, imagine producing building size ice on the spot. Imagine how much building-sized ice would weigh. Imagine him generating all this ice against you in combat and this crap physically landing on your head. That's a lot of weight landing on you on the spot. That's why I'd say creating this much ice in the blink of an eye is an insane feat, and it proves his raw blast power and how much weight his hits are. Are you kidding me, guys? Look at all this ice he can generate. We see him clash with Orca. He's covering up big chunks of the forest, y'all. Like, and it's the same for his fire, on how much he can generate and how much he can make it spread. I think we all can agree that these giant robots are pretty big. Just in case you need a visual that's clear to see what he actually did. It seems creatures that are way bigger than him or his classmates still body him, especially if they work together. A good way to understand how much ice he can generate is that this character Shigaraki was literally incinerating everything in his path, and Todoroki had to protect as much as he could against all this madness. All of this was getting disintegrated, y'all. All of this. It was happening so fast. That's why Todoroki's shielding from this is impressive, even if it only worked for a little second for them to get away. If you're somehow not convinced of his raw blast power by now, he literally generated so much ice that was so heavy it made like an earthquake in the whole stadium, to where even the grown heroes that are higher ranked than him were like shocked, because sometimes he can go a bit overboard, can he? I mean, would you call him a stadium buster? This is a constant reoccurrence of him making gigantic ice walls on the spot. All this power I've showed you so far is still technically an oversimplification of his raw power, because due to the nature of his quirk, he's basically like a nuke. Because when you look at the opponents he has to face, like some of his classmates, for example, he has a classmate that literally has rocket boosters on his calves that can help him kick harder via the propulsion, but Todoroki's ice can still shut down these powerful legs. I have no doubt that he could blow apart mountains if he really wanted to, based on the narrative that offensive blast power stuff is something he specializes in narratively. Even pro heroes acknowledge this about him. I mean, look who his dad is. After All Might retired, he became the #1 hero, so you know his genetics is insane. Narratively, even in his earlier days of the show, it's talked about how he's stronger than most pros, professional heroes. It's even stated that his raw fire power or blast power is on par with Endeavor, the #1 hero after All Might retired. I mean, other fire users, like Endeavor's other son, Endeavor and him clash, and their beams like are pretty much even here. Todoroki's blast, when it comes to battling his older brother, who has a crazy amount of blast power too, his blast can match him. We see him burn his brother Dabi. It's clear his blasts are just ice, are way more dense than normal ice. This is kind of backed up where we see him fight a less experienced Izuku Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya literally has the same superpowers as the strongest hero in this universe, All Might. I want to keep note that this wasn't him at his absolute prime, but this kind of adds up though based on how good their fight was and how they had a beam struggle, and the clash was pretty impressive. Keep in mind that Todoroki wasn't nowhere near his prime either, so just for those that like the lowball. It adds up of him having crazy firepower like his dad. When you see him clash with one of the strongest beings in his universe's superpower with his blast. I'm going to come back to this, but if you don't want to count this because Deku was not as experienced with his power right here, well, it's reiterated more about his power regardless of this particular situation. Like how literally the main villains of this universe is given Todoroki props saying he's strong. Even though he can't beat him in a fair 1v1, he's enough of a threat to where when he's weakened, he can't take them lightly. Characters like All For One or Shigaraki, vice versa, top tiers of the universe near the end of the series. Like, I'm not saying he's all the way equal in destructive power compared all the way to the top tiers, like especially Deku when he reaches his full power at his prime, but he's not far off. Like, even if you want to say Deku's above him, that's completely fine. Same with characters like All Might and etc. Like, saying he's not on these guys' levels when it comes to destructive power is fine. That's not the point. I'm saying he can't be too far behind if he's competing with these guys a certain way. Like, look, against Deku, somebody that has All Might's superpowers, we see small glimpses of his power that Deku has to use to break his ice. Deku at this point in time injuring himself while doing this because he didn't know how to regulate his power that good yet. There was even statements of Deku during this point in time that Todoroki, there's a possibility he could handle an 100% attack. Characters that have absurd super strength. Look who he can trap in this heavenly piercing ice wall. And even in this occasion when they was going all out, even when the teachers was trying to soak up the impact, their blast still caused a crazy amount of collateral damage. Not only that, Todoroki blasted back Deku here in this particular occasion, so he technically overpowered a 100% blast or strike from Deku or attack at this point in time, of course. This is impressive because when you realize Deku in the future, when he got better with his power, the raw power he can produce is absurd. I'm talking about he's able to make continent-sized shockwaves, y'all, like Deku. Because he's in Japan, he punched with such a crazy shockwave, it reached all the way to the United States. The whole country was clear of clouds. Clouds was clear for the whole week. Yes, this is end of the series Deku, of course. Todoroki fought him at an earlier part of the series. I'm just trying to let you know there's heavy implications. Todoroki can't be far behind when it comes to raw destructive offense. I mean, if we're to be technical, both Deku and Todoroki were weaker during the times they clashed anyway. So saying he's like a nuke is an oversimplification. If he's clashing strikes or blasts with beams, that can create shockwaves that reach all the way from Japan all the way to America. Like, I'm talking about destructive power easily able to level continents. He's clashing with characters that are capable of that kind of power. This is the same being Todoroki overpowered in this particular situation. He beam struggled, blasted back, out overpowered a being that could level multiple continents. But if you want to say, oh, this Deku was weaker, that we shouldn't count this, well, I got more for you. There was this movie character that was pretty much an All Might knockoff, but don't get it twisted. He was still ridiculously strong, and Todoroki was still able to, in certain cases, overpower him with his raw blast power concussively, because Todoroki is getting stronger. That guy has similar power to All Might. You're probably wondering, why does that matter? Because these two literally have the same superpower. And Todoroki, along with Deku in this movie, was helping take on this same being, so he wasn't a featherweight even though Deku was here. Yeah, these characters can take their durability, can take what they can dish out. So when All Might hits something and they can take his hit, if Todoroki is able to damage these same beings, that just lets you know that how potent his blasts are. I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier about how his ice can kind of ignore durability. He can kind of do severe damage to characters like this, where All Might has issues damaging them. All Might tier beings, Todoroki can shatter their body with his blast. So he's very potent. I mean, look what Todoroki can do with the weight of his hits against All Might Deku tiers. He's got to be somewhere in the higher ends, y'all. It would be weird if he wasn't. His blast power is getting complemented by beings in this universe that can produce similar energy to Deku, beings that can technically level multiple continents if you can make continent-sized shockwaves from Japan and go all the way to the United States. This is enough energy to technically shake smaller planets like Pluto in our solar system. Yeah, the energy needed to destroy multiple continents is enough energy to cause an earthquake to the entirety of Pluto. Not busted, I'm talking about the entirety of Pluto would quake from this kind of energy. This is the kind of energy we're talking about he's competing with. Those are some heavy ice blasts. And thanks to anime logic, his durability is way better than normal humans for some reason, even without shielding himself with ice. But then if we're being honest, he can always increase his durability by shielding himself with ice. Against all the other characters in this universe, he got respect for his speed too. He can match the speed of Deku and just straight line speed when they're casual right here. There's characters in this universe, especially when we're talking about the top tiers, when it comes to their speed, characters can blast with radio waves, and there's characters that can avoid these attacks. Well, you know, radio waves are the speed of light, by the way, Google it. When it comes to Shigaraki, Todoroki can help react to these kind of beings. It doesn't seem like anybody can just straight up speed blitz Todoroki to where Todoroki can't do anything. So he has to be somewhere in these guys' ballpark, even if they are faster. Like, for example, I do believe Deku is just in raw speed faster than them, but he's not so slow when it comes to reflexes and etc. combat speed to where they're completely invisible to his eyesight. So even disrespecting him, he has to be in them light speed ranges, just like the rest of the cast, especially when we get to the higher end battles. Did you know Todoroki was this strong? Yeah, he's pretty high end. Not the strongest in this universe, but he's close enough to hold his ground with the strongest in this universe. He's not fodder in comparison to the strongest of this universe, especially blast power. But before I get going, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for the donations. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos.
Okay, so that was How Strong is Shoto Todoroki, and there's a lot. That was a lot of information. Yeah, like Todoroki. I keep saying like Todoroki, but even though that's his family name, but I'm just used to call him Todoroki or Shoto. But yeah, Shoto has a lot of crazy feats. Mm, eh, but yeah, but Deku's feats are like essentially way crazier. Good Bakugo and other pretty much other characters in My Hero. And that's today's video. If you like it, hit the like button, comment down below, hit the subscribe button added. And also, I also got a video request from certain someone. Just waiting to the near future. Until then, later, guys.